We've got ourselves some very interesting news. A couple of hours ago, we had our Fed Chair Powell testimony. And obviously, like every single time that Mr. Fed Chair Jerome Powell speaks, well, he says something quite controversial. And there's a couple things which he posted today, which he said today, that caught the markets by surprise. Now, one of the things which he said was Mr. Chair Jerome Powell just warned that interest rates are probably going to rise higher than was expected. There's actually also a small video that I'd like you guys to watch, as I think it is fairly interesting.
But at the end of the day, there's only one solution to this problem, and that is Congress. Whatever else may happen will happen, but Congress really needs to raise the debt ceiling. That's the only way out, in a timely way that allows us to pay all of our bills when and as due. And if we fail to do so, I think that the consequences are hard to estimate, but they could be extraordinarily adverse, and could do longstanding harm. But at the end of the day,
yeah, so that's obviously not what anybody would like to see. That's not what any of us wanted to hear. Increasing the debt ceiling is a pretty big endeavor, and there's kind of more where that came from. So here, Mochagur actually posts about this interest rate as well. He also posted, Fed Chair Powell says many unusual factors are affecting inflation and don't know how this is going to play out. And a little bit before, he says inflation progress is likely to be bumpy. The point being, things were moving pretty nicely recently here. I looked at all these macroeconomical factors and thought, well, you know what? We're on a nice path. It looks like a very soft landing is almost certain, as things were just moving nicely along. But now all this FUD, it's catching the markets by surprise a little bit. I don't know what other way to put it for y'all. It's catching the markets by surprise, and I saw a couple of articles talk about the consequences of this to all these markets. I don't care. It's all short term. We've covered before some of the most important dates for March. Obviously, those dates, however, are what we see every single month. The only thing additional here that I think is worth mentioning is obviously everything in regards to Mt. Gox. I believe the deadline for the filings is March 10th, if I'm not mistaken. Now we have all these like general dates that are important, like the Fed meetings, etc., mostly coming in a little bit later in the month. Anyway, there's a couple articles that I also wanted to share. 5 of the 9 SEC registered crypto firms are now gone, documents show. That's all the while we see articles like this as well. Grayscale's lawsuit against the SEC over Bitcoin ETF approval reaches court. That's all the while we're seeing articles like, I've lost exactly where it is. Here we go. SEC is increasing its staff to investigate the prosecution of crypto firms. Point being here, the SEC is going after crypto. You can go left, you can go right, but they're going after crypto. And I don't know fully why. I don't fully understand why. I don't fully understand their approach. I don't really understand anything of what they're doing, especially when you start to read into the fact that they're trying to harbor innovation. That's kind of what they write themselves, right? They're trying to write all these rules for the betterment of the U.S. and for helping out investors, but then their actions show the exact opposite. And when you see, again, they're trying to make things safe by removing all the properly regulated entities in the US in regards to crypto. How does that make sense? So again, this was shared a little while ago, but you're starting to notice now a little bit of a trend. The SEC makes you say, hey, or makes it seem like, hey, come up to us, explain what you're doing, you're fine, we'll get you that registry and you're good to go. But then the moment you come in and explain the story and they give you the thumbs up, eventually they'll just beat your ass up for registering, which is kind of odd. But it's literally proven right now. When Gary Gensler says a handful of crypto security tokens have registered under the existing regime, these are the ones he's referring to. Note, the first 5 companies registered as a result of settlements under Clayton. No companies have registered under Gensler, as Gensler probably had his fist up saying, hey, ain't nobody entering my domain. Correct, we at INX Group, this is a response, are the only registered token IPO in existence. The SEC needs to make a more friendly environment for people trying to adhere to law. They need to advance registrations that have been toiling for too long. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Grayscale and things of this nature. where again, the parties are willing to come to terms and willing to even change everything about it, as long as the SEC just explains their rulemaking process. But then it turns out again that the SEC does not work that way. They do not want to explain their rules, nothing along those lines. They just want to destroy for some reason. And they just want people to lose more money by letting all this stuff go abroad, it seems. Why are they doing that? It's a mystery to all of us. It really freaking is. Alright guys, but before we move on, I should quickly show you guys again another project that I'm investing into. But before we do that, I want to quickly make sure you guys understand I'm an investor. I invest into many early stage projects almost every single week in multiple. And so whenever you're copying me, because, well, I showcase these things for you guys to learn from here, be sensible, be smart, and understand that these things can go wrong. But having said that, I personally believe that buying into sales like this is the best opportunity to turn $1,000, or let's start with a little bit higher, to turn $10,000 into $1 million, which is why I keep showcasing it to you guys too. And you have to understand as well, I buy into many projects, but many of them is just hard to get into. So whenever there's projects that have a good risk to reward, in my opinion, I gotta share it with you guys. And here's yet another opportunity. Anyway, so the main point, there's 2 points. One is I saw they had a very nice airdrop worth $50,000, which is what got me like, ooh, let me look a little bit deeper into actually sharing with you guys. But most importantly, which you can see over on many of their pages, it's called cryptounity.com. And what they do is solve an extremely important problem that people tend to not trust exchanges. So what they've decided is users' funds are safeguarded with the independent regulated custodian, and they don't hold your crypto. As you guys might know by now, whenever that's the promise of being some exchange or wallet or things akin to that, I'm always very sensible and safe with the way I invest into it. Obviously, because these things are new. You can check out the team for yourself, though everything looks amazing. You know, it's properly audited. They've been to multiple crypto events, which always gives these certainties that I need as a baseline. I'm going to be especially excited once they get their app on the App Store, which is also a very important part for me. But let me get back to the earlier point. These, even though a little bit on the riskier side, have the real gain potential. Because just think about it for a second. Again, Crypto Unity got themselves a pretty good name, but if they really are able to fulfill a little bit of their promise, it has just so much potential for gains, which is why I tend to invest heavier into projects like this. Again, I am not in any way, shape, or form encouraging you guys to do so. I'm just sharing that I'm doing it. As I mentioned just now, I always take a look at the team as well, see exactly who you're investing into. And again, to kind of keep it short, I'm not going to go fully deep into all this, right? But you can watch a couple of smaller explanations for yourself right here. They're explaining themselves quite properly exactly what it is. But yeah, you can buy it on the website. Again, guys, be smart with it. Be sensible. Don't do anything you're going to regret. But understand that I buy into these things all the time. And here's yet another one that I'm buying into. So again, cryptounity.org. Now here's the article that I just mentioned in regards to the DXY breaking 105, Bitcoin down to 22 as support, new peak rate of 5.6% in the futures market, Powell ultimate level of interest rates likely to be higher than previously anticipated. Just the markets are reacting to all of this news that's come out. Now, taking a look at the data, we have the US dollar index, the euro, US dollar, GBP, US dollar, Japanese yen, US dollar, the Chinese yuan, US dollar, ruble, and Bitcoin. Basically, everything is falling down. US dollar doing amazing. That's about it, you know. That's the biggest conclusion I can draw right here. That's exactly what's happening. And again, the 22nd of March is going to be the meeting date, and everything is now set for the next couple of months, or actually the next year and a half or so. You can see the highest probabilities and a little bit of the error surrounding that. But generally speaking, it's expected that things are going to pretty drastically increase here over the next couple of months still before numbing back down all the way at the end of the year, potentially the beginning of next year, depending on how things come along. As we stated before, it does not really matter exactly how high this number goes. It mostly just matters how long it pertains for, because if they could shoot up to 6.5 and all the issues would be resolved next week, that would obviously be the better option, right? The problem is the higher you go, the worse things get. The longer you let that last, the worse things get. So you want both to be as minimal. But since we all know it's going to have to increase anyway, we all know it. The only question is, how long does it have to increase for? How long does it have to stay high for our inflation to be fixed? And then when he comes out with these very scary statements of inflation not really being as fixable as was previously expected, that's what people just get kind of sketched out. On the contrary, the US dollar doing so good is pretty interesting. And I guess one other thing that's very interesting was this right here. Kraken crypto exchange to disrupt traditional banking with the launch of its own bank for digital assets. Here's what you need to know. I think all you need to know is that Kraken is looking into creating their own bank. I think, the US is not going to be too excited about them, even though they want to properly register it in the US, and it's going to be a Wyoming-based bank. It's going to be peculiar, the first crypto-related bank. I'd say as of this point, it just sounds like how a lot of firms are doing it, right? A lot of firms like Coinbase have custody solutions, and to a certain degree, they are a bank of cryptocurrencies. But the moment you can also store US dollars, where exactly do you define something as a bank? I mean, for example, people use Coinbase very much like they do with a bank account. You can keep your dollars on there, you can keep your crypto on there, and institutional clients do the same. They use Coinbase as a store for everything. Does that then mean that it's a bank because you can store your money on there? Where exactly does that lie? Well, it lies with the details. And the fact that Kraken is going for the official license over in Wyoming and actually becoming or at least getting partially a bank is a pretty big deal, because the first crypto bank, first thing in this nature, after Silvergate kind of showcased that it was not that easy to do. Kraken as the first exchange is going to open that up. It's I don't know what to tell you except for it's a peculiar move, but it's a nice one. It shows the progression in our space. Anyway, to not leave you guys hanging, there's actually quite a lot of side stories to the story that I just told you guys. A part of that has to do with that everybody's waiting right now for some sort of new rules to come out in regards to crypto, or at least some sort of idea, framework idea, everything along those lines, coming partially from Mr. Michael Barr, Vice Chair for Supervision of the Federal Reserve. And he apparently is slated to deliver a speech on Thursday on the central bank's path forward in regulating crypto. So that's about 2 days from now. That's going to be a very interesting thing to watch. Give it about 48 hours and that could be a big deal because everybody's watching that. In the midst of things though, why people are so excited, why people are so skeptical is partially also because right now the SEC's decision regarding crypto, and specifically the Bitcoin ETF, is now being questioned by a judge. And for that reason, GBTC shares have done pretty well as people started kind of questioning exactly what's going on with all that in the background. Let's quickly get back to exactly where that article was. I think right here. Yeah, a U.S. court questions SEC's rejection of Grayscale's Bitcoin fund proposal. So we're going to hopefully see an update on that soon as well, because potentially this was all not so just taking it down, which again has been done for no real good reason. All the while, as I said earlier, Mr. Jerome Powell, crypto turmoil, fraud, run risk is being monitored. The chairman said innovation shouldn't be stifled, but financial institutions need to take great care in how they interact with crypto, which we partially agree with, right? It needs to be done in a safe manner, but it needs to be frameworked. That's about it. And again, there might be some aggressive rate hikes like we already covered earlier in the video. So that's something to surely watch out for. Anyway, that was it for today's little crypto update. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. Make sure you watch out for all this stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys again in another crypto video later today.